The Apple Watch Series 4 has been out for 3 months now, and with updates being added via software like the ECG heart rate monitoring and other improvements to the Apple Watch Series 4, and especially with a bunch of people probably getting these as gifts for the holidays, I thought now was a really good time to do an updated review on the Apple Watch Series 4. So even though this is 3 months later, I still just want to start with the design of that Apple Watch. So this Apple Watch Series 4 is just really nicely designed. I love the bigger screen on both the 40 and 44 millimeters. It's not edge to edge, but it does get pretty much there. If anything, it really looks like the iPad Pro screen. It kind of just has a narrow black border along all 4 sides of the screen, and it looks very reminiscent of the new iPad Pros. I like the design so much that when I look at something like the Series 3 Apple Watch, even though that is still a great product, and even though it is cheaper, and I know probably a lot of people are going to gravitate towards the Series 3 because it has that lower price point at $279 as opposed to the Series 4 Apple Watch starting at $399. Every time I see the Series 3 Apple Watch, I just think that it looks so old and dated compared to the Series 4 Apple Watch, and I always just think, man, this is the watch that Apple always wanted to make. You get that nice rounded corner effect that almost makes it look like a square and a circle combined because they rounded out the screen on the Series 4 Apple Watch. It almost makes it look more like a traditional watch design, especially in that screen area compared to the Series 3, Series 1, Series 2, Series 0 Apple Watches. And the bigger screen isn't just for looks as well. I find it's much easier to tap the content I'm looking at on the 44mm Apple Watch. Say you're scrolling through a list, or even if you're scrolling through your app grid icon, you can kind of just tap things a lot easier. Obviously, because there's bigger content on the screen and because you have more screen area to move around, you can see more content. It's easier to tap and access and easier to read text as well. Having a bigger screen gives you the option to blow up those text sizes to make it a little easier for you to read. And after 3 months of using this Apple Watch, I can say that a lot of the Apple Watch apps are now updated to take advantage of the screen size. When I first reviewed the Apple Watch, some of the apps that I used every day weren't updated for that bigger screen size. So you kind of had the black bars on the side of it, made it look like a Series 3 Apple Watch app. But every app I've used, I think, is pretty much updated to the new screen size. The thinner design sits more comfortable on the wrist as well. It also lays flatter on the wrist than any of the previous Apple Watches, especially the Series 3 Apple Watch. I think that was the thickest Apple Watch that Apple has ever released. Not only was it thick in the aluminum frame, but the casing on the back of it too was a little more bulbous, and it just sat up a lot on the wrist. With the Series 4 Apple Watch, that's pretty much removed. It pretty much lays flat on your wrist. I'm constantly thinking though that maybe the 44mm size is too big. Sometimes I look at it on a particular day and I think that it's kind of overshadowing my wrist. Some days I look at it and I go, okay, it looks fine. Maybe I shouldn't switch to the 40mm, and I really don't want to switch to the 40mm even if it was too big, because I do have a lot of Apple Watch bands which I invested in the 42mm size, and thankfully with the 44mm size you could still continue wearing all of your old bands. And same for the 40mm. If you used to wear a 38mm, all of the old bands will work with it. And speaking of bands, after owning every iteration of the Apple Watch, I have built up quite a band collection. I just love the band ecosystem that Apple implemented here, and it doesn't get enough credit how easy it is to swap out the bands on the Apple Watch. That just offers some really, really good flexibility. So say I'm going out for a workout, if I'm going out for a run, I could just strap on the Sport Loop. You get that nice fabric feeling. It's going to do well with sweat as opposed to something like a leather band, and you can go out for a run. It's nice and secure on your wrist. If I'm going for a more dressy occasion, that's when I can take off that Sport Loop, maybe put on a metal or a leather band. So even though Apple has added a bunch of new watch faces since the Series 0 Apple Watch, I find I've been gravitating towards one watch face, and that would be the infographic analog watch face. I like the analog design of the watch face. I think it looks really nice. I also like how many complications you can put on this particular watch face. So you can have 4 in the corners and then 4 around the watch face itself, so that gives you a total of 8 complications. And they give you something called super complications, which displays a little more information in those complications. And if you don't know what complications are, because I've gotten this on videos in the past, that is just the data you're seeing, so almost like a widget. So you can see how I have my current complications set up. In the 4 corners, I have things, weather, calendar, and activity. In the center, I have digital time at the top, and I've gotten flack for this, but I kind of like the way it looks there, and I like being able to see the digital time really quickly, especially for the seconds. I also have a timer, so I can quickly set timers, and I can quickly look at how much time's remaining on that timer. Of course, I have the date, so I can just easily see that. And with the software update 5.1.2, Apple added a bunch of new super super complications that weren't available when I initially reviewed the Apple Watch, and one of those complications is messages. So now I can see how many unread messages I have and just get really quick access to that. And speaking of app updates, Apple added more than just the messages complication. So the new super complications you have in watchOS 5.1.2 are Mail, Find My Friends, Maps, Home, News, Phone, Remote, and of course, Messages. With this update, Apple also added the walkie-talkie toggle in the control center, so you can quickly toggle if you're available or not available for walkie-talkie. I like the addition of adding that into control center. I do like the walkie-talkie feature. I've been using it a lot as more of my friends have been getting Apple Watches. And just having the option to quickly toggle if you're available, if you're not available, because if you're in a work meeting or something like that, you don't want your friend just blasting off and talking to you. So having quick access to that is really nice. The most important feature to this new Apple Watch update that wasn't available when I released my review, and if you've watched that review, you know I was sad that I couldn't review this, is the ECG app, the electrocardiogram feature for the Apple Watch. Now, the ECG should help detect irregular heart rhythms. And I know a lot of people are excited about this technology being available to a mass audience. It's hard for me to review because I don't have an irregular heart rhythm, but you can save your results by putting your finger on the digital crown for 30 seconds. Now, this is a hard feature for me to use. I'm not a doctor. I don't have an irregular heart rhythm, so every time I use the ECG feature on the Apple Watch, I just get something telling me that I have a normal heart pattern. And you can even go into the health app on your iPhone and export a PDF directly to your doctor. It's a cool and potentially life-saving feature, and if you have AFib or another heart condition where an ECG is used, I'd love to hear from you in the comments and if you're using the Series 4 Apple Watch for it. Other features, like I mentioned in my previous review, like the fall detection, I still haven't had a fall, thankfully, with the Series 4 Apple Watch, but I've heard from comments from other people who have had falls. You guys have let me know that the feature has worked, so thank you for sharing that information with me. I'm glad to see that the Series 4 Apple Watch fall detection is working. And if you're out alone and you do happen to have a fall and you're wearing your Apple Watch, if that could contact emergency services and potentially save your life, that is a really, really big feature. Now, the health features that I do use are the workout features. So I'm still using the Apple Watch to track my runs every day. I'm using them with my AirPods, and the experience is really, really good. I like being able to run, see all my data, and listen to music from my Apple Watch just using my AirPods, and I can leave my phone behind at home. I also have the cellular version of the Apple Watch, so I can still stay in contact with people. I can see when I'm getting text messages. I can see if someone's giving me a phone call, or if I need to make an emergency phone call, I have that option. And of course, because I have the cellular option, I can also stream Apple Music directly from my watch to my AirPods. I don't have to worry about downloading songs beforehand. If I want to listen to a particular song while I'm running, I could just use Siri, ask for the song, and I can get it right away. And I use that feature all the time, so I'm really enjoying having the cellular connection on my Series 4 Apple Watch. So after using the Apple Watch for 3 months, I'm still finding myself blown away by the performance of the Series 4 Apple Watch. So that just means anything I do on the Apple Watch is just super, super quick. I mentioned this in my previous review videos, and it's still holding true after 3 months later. It's still a super fast device. So if I'm using my third-party Twitter app on the Apple Watch called Chirp, I can like things, I can scroll through my timeline really quickly, and I can even reply using it on the Apple Watch. Or I can even look at my notes in my Bear Notes app. Of course, I can receive my notifications on my Apple Watch, and that experience is pretty much unchanged from the Series 0 version, but it's still a great feature to have. Of course, receiving some phone calls when I'm out and about without my phone, sending messages, and more of my friends are getting Apple Watches, so using the competition feature in the workouts has been really cool. And of course, like I mentioned before, using the walkie-talkie feature has been pretty cool, especially when you have some friends that you want to quickly contact and you just pull up your watch and say, hey, what are you doing? Or I need this thing done. That is a really cool feature to have. I'd say my biggest complaint with the Apple Watch Series 4 over the Series 3 is the battery life on it. So I'd say at the end of a typical day, I'm at around 40% battery life, so it can still get you through a full day. There's no issue. It's not going to die on you midday. But with the Series 3 Apple Watch, sometimes I could squeeze 2 days out of it, and with the Series 4, it's just not gonna cut it. The Apple Watch Series 4 feels a lot like when the iPhone 4 came out. It's so refined that a lot of the flaws from the previous Apple Watches have been worked out, and it has a great design and great performance. And in fact, the Series 4 is so good, it's hard to see where Apple will go from here. It's hard to see what the Series 5 Apple Watch will do in terms of taking the Apple Watch to the next level. But I think the thing I want to see most from the next Apple Watch, or even on this Series 4 Apple Watch, is for this to become a fully independent device. The performance is there, the connectivity is there. There's really no reason why you should still have to buy an iPhone in order to set up the Apple Watch. And especially with the expanded health features and this being one of the only consumer devices to easily give you an ECG reading, I think it's time for Apple to stop selling the Apple Watch as an iPhone companion and to open it up a little more so that Android users can use it as well, and for it to become a fully independent device. That way, more and more people can get the potentially life-saving benefits of the Apple Watch Series 4. All right, everyone, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, make sure you give it a like. If you want to see more from my channel, make sure you're subscribed, and let me know what you think of the Apple Watch Series 4. Are you guys enjoying it? Have you picked one up yet? Did you get a gift for the holidays? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, guys, I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.